This is Steve Domenico and Travis, Full Contact Writer, in the Room Podcast, episode 10, 2020. What's going on, folks? Hope you can hear me out there. I always get nervous the first 60 seconds of the show, wondering if the sound is out there, if it's echoing, if all can be heard. So, a favor, let us know if you can hear us, if anything sounds great in here. And let's see. Travis. Episode 10. There we are. 2020. We sound good. What's going on, folks? Travis, say something. Introduce yourself, Travis, because we have a lot to talk about tonight, Travis. And we're starting off with you. So let it fly, bro. Who are you, and how do we know each other?
Yeah, for those of you who don't know the story, and I mean, most of you guys tuning in should probably know that Steve and I have been kind of around the same group of people for a little while now. We've enjoyed each other's company, and I think you said it on one of your last podcasts that it was at a Cage Titans event, but it was actually at CES 39 at Plymouth Memorial Hall. So that's when we first met. The whole Sean incident went down. We've been around a little while. I was working for Western Mass, and for those of you, I really haven't said anything publicly yet, but I have recently left Western Mass to do a little bit of something that I've been trying to get going on for the last couple of years, and I think we've all been kind of looking forward to something along the lines of what we're about to talk about tonight. So I have recently left Western Mass after 3.5 years of covering fights for them, and I had a great time. I have nothing but good things to say about Western Mass. They had my back. They gave me an opportunity when I didn't even think that I would ever be able to make a name for myself writing in the sport. So I definitely got to give it up to them because they were my original platform. But Steve and I have always had a vision that kind of coincides with one another, where we just want to make sure that the fighters get proper exposure. We want to do the best to make sure that the fighters are getting treated fairly by promotions. And that's always been a big thing near and dear to Steve and I. We've had long conversations about it. So we've always been on the same page there. I've always had your back. You've always had mine. Nothing but good things to say. I've been proud of your work on the podcast. I've been happy to be around for most of the time that you've been covering the sport as well. But I really feel like you were one of the day one guys for me. So it's pretty cool that we're about to announce something after 3.5 years of doing this side by side to actually do something where we're both on the same path. I think that's pretty cool. So
excellent. A lot of there's 3 of us involved in here, and we'll talk a little bit about the third person involved, who we can really say his name now. He came to us with this idea that, you know, I had the voice and the interviews and, you know, the be able to travel around and hit gyms, and I had the podcast. Travis, of course, does write-ups, leads up to fight cards all over New England. You know, does interviews himself, but mostly behind the pen, doing, you know, his craft there. So, and he also does the live play-by-plays online that you can follow along and, you know, vote on the fight yourself or have Travis's opinion on the fight. So he does all that also. And also great things for fighters that, you know, at a later date, we'll talk about that. But it was a perfect fit between Travis and I as far as media coverage and what we can do as far as not, you know, being at different sections and still being able to meet. So we have that all worked out, and that'll come out as far as the roles of Travis and I in this, and the role of the third person that, you know, his name is Lars, and we'll talk about him. He's the one that actually is developing the website, doing all basically the tech work, and, you know, his knowledge of MMA and rules and commissions and criteria on there is very important here, and we'll get to that. So there's 3 big segments of this, you know, this endeavor, this website that we're going to be coming out, this all New England MMA website. Is Travis, myself, Lars, and there's a few more. There's you, the fans, there's the fighters, and there's the promotions, there's the gyms. There's a bunch involved in this website. We're going to do all the work in uploading it and getting the exposure out there and trying to get our nucleus together as far as all New England, and you can go there for everything you need as far as fight information. But there's a lot that's going to go into it, and we need a lot of people on board as far as info and being able to give us stuff that we need as far as, you know, between the lines and not going a little too farther, and you know what I mean. So, Travis, if you want to talk about what's going to go into this website and what you've been working on to try to get, ball rolling, so we have a launch at a later date.
Yeah, we really want to make sure that this is a place where you could go. It's a one-stop shop, if you will, for New England MMA. And I think it'll be close to a lot of those top websites that you see nationally. I think it'll be run in a similar fashion because we have Lars behind us who has created websites in the past, does a nice, clean job, knows how to get the information from us to the viewer as clean as possible. I think that's going to be a big thing. It's something, I'm not a very techie person myself, so that was always something that needed to be put into the equation. If I were to ever do something bigger, I would need a tech guy. And like you said, Lars basically put this website together, and it was probably about 60% finished when he showed it to me for the first time. And it's just something that we really feel like is going to bring exposure to our New England fighters a little bit at a higher level than we're used to in the past. There's plenty of websites out there. We've both been part of them that cover things to a certain extent, but don't really reach all the categories that you would like to see out of a website that compiles all the information that you would want in New England. Whether it's a fighter looking for a fight, a promoter looking to fill a last-minute replacement, or a fan looking to check out what an experience is like at a certain promotion, or interaction with fighters, things like that. We're really going to try to make it as interactive as possible, like you said, Steve, and have the cooperation of the fighters, the promoters, and the fans alike, because we want to have this to be an interactive website, something that you check, a couple times a week to see if there's any new fight news, or see, we'll be doing fan voting and things like that. We are coming up with our own ranking system that will rank all the fighters in the weight classes and things like that. We're going to try to get input from the promoters themselves on this. I was kind of talking to Lars about this the other day, and how we can make this a fair run at ranking fighters. And we just want to give as many people input as possible. And, we really want to use that to kind of take the algorithm effect out of what a Tapology, if you will allow, because Tapology has their numbers that they put in. We really want this to be an opinionated based type deal, but we want to have some thought that goes into it. We want the promoter to say, hey, I got this guy who's one of my champions. He may not have fought in Maine, or he may not have fought in Massachusetts, but he belongs in the talks of top whatever at his weight class at that time. It's a way to get some eyes on people that certain parts of our region may not see on a day-to-day basis. It's going to be, like I said, one-stop shop. You're going to be able to go get fighter information, fight card information about tickets, way to contact promoters. We'll do pictures. We'll have my articles. I'll still continue to do the live updates to as many fight cards as I attend. I think you can also probably look forward to me. I know I get a little bit long-winded in some of my articles. I think we'll see a lot of shorter articles from me. I'll still do the longer fight card previews and stuff like that, but we want to do a lot of our original content. I mean, that's what it's going to be about. It's going to be about original content, stuff you can't get elsewhere, stuff that if you get it elsewhere, it may not be quite as in-depth as we're going to do it. We just really want to go all out now. We've put ourselves out there now to some of the promoters, some people that are looking to sponsor us possibly. And we want everyone's cooperation in this. Like, it's not an us against the world. It's us as one, as New England MMA. And that's really what we want to stand for. Anyone who's trying to get anywhere needs a platform to do it. And I think that we're going to offer that platform to the fighters, to the promoters, and to the fans yet again. So
excellent. And what we've seen and what you and Lars have been showing me as far as the website pages available Fighters are going to have their own, profile. It's going to have your fight footage, anything that's where we come into, promotions and stuff like that can give us all they have on these fighters. What they don't have, I might have, or, other people will let us have. But we're going to have, basically a library of your career in New England going back the last up 10 years, correct, Travis?
We went back further than that when getting information. We should really be up to date, at least the last 15 years or so. It's hard to really go back and look at when you get a database of 4,000 fighters and a guy who fought once in New England. We might not have the gym information for your opponent or something like that. But we are going to try to go as in depth as possible on these fighters and fight cards. But you're going to run into a wall at some point where the information is no longer there to get. But that's where we're really looking for cooperation with the promotions and things like that. We want to offer fight videos, and I think that you and I have been on the same page with this, as well as a lot of fighters. There's some fighters that just cannot get their footage anymore, and we want this to be a place where, like, hey, now we can provide a little bit of fight footage for these people. Maybe you fought in New England and you want to fight on the West Coast or something, and you want to have that page where you can market yourself to another promotion if you wanted to do so. And it's going to be so much more intimate, I feel like. I mean, intimate might be kind of a weird word to use in this situation, but it's literally going to be a promotion for the fighters and a tool for the fighters and promoters to be able to promote the fighters better than they ever have before. And I think if we just have everyone on board, fans alike, it's going to be something that will really step up the game, get a lot more fighters, a lot more publicity. And I just think it's something that we've needed for a long period of time here. And I mean, the sports kept growing. The podcasts have kept growing in the area. There's people writing about MMA that haven't been writing about MMA before. But we just want to make sure that we're the tried and true. We've been around for quite a while now, and we don't plan on going anywhere. And now we've united with a third person who can bring us together and make this something that we probably could never have dreamed of. So.
Excellent. To get back at, when you talked about the rankings and how it's going to bring everyone, it's going to bring massive debate as far as that. And it's going to be a monthly thing, correct? As far as the rankings, because they change constantly. So there's going to be a debate. I mean, this is not there's going to be little mistakes made here and there, but it's an evolving process, and it's just going to bring people together. Promotions, as far as my guy, should be here for that. It's going to have reasons out there why this fighter should be where he should. And we go back to promoting. This is going to promote the fighter all over New England. And if they can't get a fight inside New England, it brings up other promotions at the regional level or beyond that. We'll see this fighter and his worth if everyone is fighting over him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There's no place right now. If I'm a promoter on the West Coast and I say, hey, I need somebody at 145-pound amateur, and there's no one matching up in my region, there's no one website that I can go to learn all this information in one spot. Tapology's been great for years, and I'll never doubt them, because I've got a lot of information from Tapology from the past, but there's certain things that we will offer that they don't offer. SureDog, another website that's done a great job in the past, but these are all, they have such a big database of fighters. Now, we're going to have a big database too, but they are all fighters that we pretty much, between you and I, we know personally and are in our circle. I mean, there's going to be a lot of fighters in there that have fought once in New England and never fought again, but that's just it helps us broaden the spectrum and make us look a little bit more legit if we have everyone that has fought in New England over that time span in there. But it's going to be a one stop. You click on that, you can get your fight videos, you can get wins, losses, method of victories, age, where you were born, things.
Upcoming fights, rankings, where you rank for that. If you hold a belt, you got all. You're gonna we know how fighters go on Tapology. They check their rankings constantly. They're on it. They're taking screenshots of it. They're sending it, hey, I'm here, there. I mean, you guys are gonna be like not be able to sleep at night, knowing what's gonna be like next, or coming up in the next week. This is gonna be like boom, 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 where the traffic is gonna be enormous. Hopefully, we think, because we wouldn't be doing it and 24/7. This podcast is gonna be that part of that website. Travis is part of that website, and Laz has given up a lot to be part of this website and develop this website. So we're in here full throttle. Not that we don't have other jobs that we have to do, but this is something that no one else is willing to put their time into, with no guarantee there's going to be anything giving back to us other than doing something that fucking New England needs. So Travis, man, anything else you want to talk about? I mean, we're going to show just a couple of pictures. How about announcing what our name is? What the frig is our name?
All right, so we are going to be MMA.org. We looked at getting some .com websites, but we wanted to stay true to. You and I have been going by the hashtag Team New England MMA. New England MMA has always been in our repertoire, if you will, and so we're going to stay true to the name. You see the logo there. It's going to be pretty cool. So we're newenglandmma.org, and then I want to be able to tell you guys a little bit about our third party, if you don't mind if I do that now. So our third party is somebody who's been around the game for probably longer than Steve and I have. He knows every technical aspect of the sport. And like Steve said, he gave up a lot to make this website happen. And he's fully funded the startup of this website by himself. He came to Steve and I both independently to make sure that we were both on board. He took his time. And he's been cage-side before. He knows a little bit about what it's like to be cage-side, because he is now calling himself a former judge. As of this morning, Mr. Lars Borson will no longer be at the judge's table. He is going to be a part of this website going forward. The basic what it came down to is he didn't want to have any conflict of interest. We figured that he could be a creator in the sense where he would just be behind the scenes and stuff, but he's put so much into this site that he deserves to be up front and recognized for the work that he's put in. A little backstory: how I met Lars. I remember after Cage Titans, where Janetti fought Harvey, and there was the draw decision. I had gotten in contact with Lars because I wanted a little bit of justification as to how that draw took place, the scoring of the fight and such. So I met up with Lars and we discussed the fight, talked about it at length, met for lunch, and got to know each other. And then Lars I saw him a couple times cage side at NEF. And we started attending fights together. Some of you may have seen us together at Cage Titans. We've been there a few times together. And sometimes I will be doing my thing for Western Mass. He'll be judging. He's from the next town north of me in Maine. I'm from York. He's from Wells. And it just works out really well that we travel to fights together a lot. So we have many hours in the car discussing things that have to do with New England MMA. Because when you're driving home from Plymouth, Massachusetts, and it's a 2.5-hour drive and it's 1 a.m., all you got to do is talk about the card that you just saw. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about this stuff. And I think it definitely goes to show that we're putting a lot into this when we talk about Lars actually giving up his ability to be judging fights. And now I see this as a loss to the MMA community up front, because I really see fights the same way as Lars does a lot. And I think he was, in my estimation, one of the better judges, the more fair judges, the less controversial judges. Every time I knowing him recently, every time he's been cage side, when I've been cage side, I always compare my card to the card they read for Lars, because I value his opinion on fights. He's taught me a lot about what I know too, as far as how fights are scored and things like that. So in the last probably year and a half or so since I've been hanging around with Lars, he's taught me so much about the fight game, how to score fights, how to look for different things that I wouldn't have looked for just as a writer on the outside looking in. And it's pretty cool to have that bond with him and then be able to bring it all together with us three. I just think it's going to be a little bit unstoppable, I have to say.
And here's the thing: we're all making the decisions now. It's not Crazy Steve or we're all in it together. So we all have to it's a team. So with that said, now the podcast will be focused on whatever three of us agree on guests and ideas, and Lars not only is developing this incredible website that he's going to keep updated and flowing and always adding new stuff, and it's evolving. It will evolve as New England does, but the podcast will too. Lars is going to get it to every podcast platform he can, anywhere available. So these important these interviews we have that with some of these first time pros making their pro debut or amateur debut. Some of these amateur debut fighters are now pros making their debut or making their debut for the UFC or Bellator, or you get what I mean. So these are going to be heard and look back at some of these things. You know what I mean? So this podcast is part of the website now, and it will be talked about and voted on different things, and whatever is involved in the podcast is a 3-man show now as far as content and who's on and all that. So with that said, Travis, as far as keeping this going and stuff like that, when do you think, I know we can't talk about launch, but when do you think, what's a timeline you think that people can get ready for something special coming?
I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming up, and it's one of those things where we can shoot for the moon and hope to end up amongst the stars at this point. We would like to, I would say, definitely be launched before the summer slate of fights, I would say. But that's again, not giving out too many details. We're in good shape, and I met with Lars, like I said, for the first time, and I actually saw this website probably 3 weeks or so ago, and the distance we've covered in those 3 weeks makes me think that we're on a pretty good pace to get this thing out to you guys as soon as possible. But again, it's one of those things where everything has to line up, and we don't want to launch way too early and have it look perfect, because that's what we owe. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, and we've put our own amount of effort into it, but now with 3 powers combined, it should be virtually seamless at this point. We got 3 people who really know what they're doing, and getting to put all 3 of our talents together is going to be something that it needs to be done right the first time, and that's what our goal is.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if I could get it out tomorrow, I'd get it out tomorrow. But
Listen, hey, right, Travis. Right now, I'm showing a little teaser. Right now, I'm showing the room page right there, kind of how it's going to be set up. The it's going to have the get upcoming guest, everything like that. I'm excited. I wouldn't know how to do any of this stuff without Lars pushing it and telling me it should be out there. I mean, he came to us too for a reason, and definitely your skills and your the way you are with fighters, your friendships with them, and just your coverage of all and of all fighters. He came to me as far as knowing the same thing, the fighters, but in a different region. Like we different areas as far as where we live, so of course them fighters are going to be more accessible to us. Hitting really, really major parts of New England, and it's just going to get better. We're going to be able to hit even farther into New England and get more fighters exposed here, because everyone's going to be on board. Every promotion who wants to be on board, we need you on board. So we want your fighters to be exposed. We want your fight card to be exposed and shown, and that goes back to the fighters, getting them the recognition they deserve, and it's a win-win. So why not be part of it and get the ball rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that you're gonna get out of this website what you put into this website, and we're gonna notice that more than anyone with the work that we put in. And I think that the more work we put in, the more fighters are gonna see, hey, this is where we need to be. This is what we need to do. It's no longer going to be, hey, is my Tapology page updated? Is my Sherdog page updated? It's going to be, is my New England MMA page updated? That's going to be the go-to. That's where people are going to want to click. If they want fair opinions on fighters and proper coverage on fighters that are not created by algorithm or computers, but more based on what we see in the cage, what we see from fighters. I mean, I think you and I have had the connection with the fighters on a different level than some other people in the media. It's been hard. I've had to walk a line for many fights, covering many fights. Wanting one party to win, and I never would admit it at the media table. But we're New England guys. We love our fighters from New England. We think we have some of the best fighters in the world. It's proven over the past, like, the 3.5 years that I've covered it. We have so many of our fighters have blossomed, whether it's a Contender Series, the UFC, PFL, Bellator. It's amazing. I remember when I first started watching local MMA back in 2008 or 2009, and hearing that people got signed to Bellator was just like something that would blow your mind. And now we have pros lining up at the Bellator door to strap their gloves on. It's something that with how fast this sport's growing in our region, there needs to be something to bring everyone together, and that's what we're going to offer here. And again, like you said, like I said a minute ago, you're going to get out what you put in. Be fair with us, we'll be fair with you. We always have been. So I think this could just be something to put our efforts forward to get more of you guys these contender fights, to get more of our amateurs recognized. We get so many people coming up the ranks in all aspects of the game, in all levels of the game. And we're not going to focus on just the pros. We focus on amateurs. That's what, the amateurs have been our bread and butter for the last few years, and we're going to continue to focus on them just as much as the guys that are in the UFC from our region. But it's New England MMA, and that's what we stand for, and that's what we're going to promote.
Awesome.
Our fighter.
Well, that was well said, man. I think we gave out all we could give out right now. It's in the process. It's farther than it's far along right now, and it's doing well, and we're very excited about it. So with that said, Travis, we are looking for sponsors. There is a sponsor package out there. Don't be afraid to message me on Messenger. I mean, I get them all the time. It's constant. I know I'm going to be getting them a lot while this website is full throttle. So if you want to be a sponsor, someone wants to be a sponsor. I know there's nothing tangible that you have seen yet, but there's a ton to be knowledge if you use the email, message me, and Laz will tell you that everything that's going into this website, and that's where you'll get your information. He knows more than us as far as that perspective there.
And I want to stress real quick that there is a flyer out there. So if you contact Steve and I, you will get a flyer about our sponsorship information. And there is an email on that flyer to contact, and that will go straight to Lars. Now, we weren't going to release his name at the beginning, but now that we have, it doesn't really matter. But Lars will be taking care of the sponsorship information. So if you've spoken to one of us about a sponsorship in the past, or in the past couple of days, it could only have been, please, if you are interested, send Lars the email. And the email is directly underneath the sponsorship packages on that flyer. That's going to be the way to get your spot.
Excellent. All right, so Travis, I and Lars will be at a fight this weekend, I do believe.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we've
Little scrap
spoken
on Springfield.
we've spoken a little too much. No, not a little too much. We've spoken a little bit much about ourselves here. So let's talk about our trip to Premier FC 30 happening this Saturday night at the Mass Mutual Center. How excited are you get to? I think you might have been at a Premier card. I haven't been at like 3 Premier cards, maybe.
This pains me to say, but this will be my first Premier FC event.
Get the hell out of here!
So I wrote for WesternMassMMA.com. So my boys were from Western Mass. So it made no sense for me to travel 3 hours. They could just step out their back door and take a pogo stick to Karen's promotion.
I understand.
I've promised many times that I would go and see her show, and I've had many conversations with Karen in the past, and I just never have made it out there. Now, she stepped away for a little while, and so I wasn't able to go for a little while, and this just happened to line up with a 2-week shutdown at work where I was able to have the time off already and be able to actually get out there. So.
Cool. I'm just making sure. I just put up. I got a flashing poster of some of the main fights there. Whatever pictures I could get.
Yeah.
So I got that going. I'm just making sure it's no technical difficulties. You know, it's the paranoia in me right now. You know, it's got to be perfect, just like that website. You know what I mean, Travis? You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm so psyched to have a team and be a part of a team like that. That, you know, as far as all MMA. So anyway, this card, Travis. Now, I did get the fight card off Tapology. And I just want to show you this fight card. Ours will be nothing like this. It'll be the pick. Like I'm picking on them right now. So let me get that up, and we'll talk about the first 5 fights that I see right here. So Pat Casey, headline. What are you thinking about Pat Casey as far as, you know, we haven't seen in a while as far as fighting live? I mean, ammo in recent months and definitely at PFC. How happy you to see the Gorilla Ninja again?
Well, I'm super happy to see the Gorilla Ninja, and I always like it's one of those things where when you see Pat Casey on a card, you have to look up to see what belt he's fighting for, what weight he's fighting, and it's crazy. I can see him fight at 55 for Bellator, and then PFC comes along and says, hey, we're putting a strap at 85 and we need somebody to fight for it. And Pat, I mean, he held, I believe, titles in 3 weight divisions as an amateur. It's one of those things, you know, we got guys out there that are missing weight left and right, and we got Pat Casey fighting within 30 pounds of his last fight. It's incredible. Pat Casey's always a competitor. New England, as he will tell you, the jungle will be out in Springfield. I am sure of it because that's his song. And, he's really the guy out there. They as they should. He's a good spokesperson for his half of the state out there. Plans to be a champion again. He's fighting UG. UG is a pretty big physical middleweight, so he's going to have a little bit of reach, I would imagine, on Pat, a little bit of height, but Pat does a good job at using his wrestling to negate some of that reach that you may have on him. But it's a really interesting fight. Yu's definitely going to be the bigger man, so he's I'm sure Pat does not intend on leaving the Mass Mutual Center without that belt around his waist.
Yeah.
So it's a what on paper could be one of the better Premier C cards we've seen in a while. I believe there's 5 belts on the line.
Yep.
Between. She stacked up a nice little fight card for us. She's got fighters that are some guys coming from other states coming in. That'll be fun to see. I'm excited about a few fights on this card. Top to bottom, I think 12 fights total. And it doesn't look like there's a snoozer.
Some
of my favorites are on this card.
Like you mentioned, the 5 title fights. two of them main boys. Main boys coming in.
Yep.
We got Zach
Yep,
Richard.
my main boys, yeah.
Zach Richard, who I met through you
Yep.
at Combat Zone, and then Jake the Bull Bagley coming in with a different opponent, because as we know, his other opponent who fought at Cage Titans, he came away with a little injury, so he had to back out of this title fight. So we got Jake Bagley going against Brazilian dude coming in who we don't know much about. And Jake basically said he saw him kickbox a couple of times, but he's never seen anything more than that. So that's intriguing.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. I forgot when I was card earlier that I knew that Jake's opponent was changed. I just don't remember who it was. And from what I remember, he's legit, but Jake Bagley doesn't back down to anyone. He's from that Bill Jones fight camp. He'd take on whatever you put in front of him. 125 pounds, 225 pounds. Jake Bagley will put his ass on the line.
So that's a title right there. Zach Richards, as we know, this is going to be his third promotional title if he captures it. He has the NEF, he has Reality, and he may have the Premier FC. He's hitting all corners of New England. And I met this gentleman through you, man. Let's talk a little bit about Zach.
Yeah, Zach's a great kid. I kind of fell in love with his attitude and his story. Zach's come to me a lot for some advice, where to go, who to fight for next. And one of the things I told him, and I think it's been ingrained in his memory ever since, is you're an amateur and you don't turn down shots at belts. And ever since I said that, I don't think he's fought a non-title fight. The thing is, there's a lot of guys out there that like to, pick their fights around and choose who they're fighting and stick to one promotion, which is really cool. I love the idea of sticking to one promotion. But when you're an amateur and somebody puts a title fight in front of you, that's just it's like being a pro. It's like being a highly anticipated prospect and Sean Shelby calling you and you just hanging up the phone. Like you got to get as an amateur. When you graduate from amateur to pro, your amateur record will be looked at for a little while, but they're going to go back in and look and say, hey, Zach Richards put 3 straps around his waist. And those are the kind of guys that you see making their pro debuts for a Bellator. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've talked to Zach about before is they can't tell somebody that they can't fight for Bellator if they have 3 amateur titles. Like, it's going to be something. And not only is he scheduled for this title fight, he's also scheduled to fight Devin Corsi, NEF, following this to defend his NEF title up there. So the guy just wants as much work as he can get. He's a good kid. He grinds hard. Again, he trains with Jake and Bill. Hard-nosed fighters. Bill's been in the game as long as I can remember hearing about local MMA. And he's a tough son of a bitch. He straps on his work boots every day, gets on roofs. And I think a little bit of that rubs off on everyone that he this Anderson kid that Zach's fighting has some real good striking. And Zach has some really good wrestling. So it's going to definitely be who's going to. But I don't know. Zach's got the experience. He's fought title fights before. He's fought some of the highest in England. He's fought Tom Pagliarulo. He's fought Fred Lear. I just think that Zach really just needs to stick to his game plan. He needs to get in there and put pressure on the striker, and bring him into deep waters. He's been successful in the past. Some people say his critic at some points that he gives a little bit too much effort, but it's Zach's wrestling. Zach he wrestled in high school. He's a great wrestler. And he always goes back to that wrestling. I've talked to him before and said, hey, I want to come out and throw some hands with this guy. And he comes out and throws a jab and changes level.
Right there.
he that's where he knows where to be. But he's finished guys with slams. He
Yeah.
finished Eric Tainer at EF with slams. He's an explosive wrestler. He can stand with people. He's not one dimensional. He's got some nice slick striking. He's learned that from Keegan Hornstra and Devin Powell and those guys. He's made himself into quite a martial artist, but he doesn't like to stray too far away from that wrestling.
Awesome.
And,
Well,
it's treated him.
Another main guy coming in, we got Raz Hilton taking on a late notice fight for the cruiserweight title against a friend of ours from Team Link and Terrence Jack.
Terrence Jr.
Yeah. So, man, here we go. Raz, I was just at his fight a few weeks ago. I think it is now 3 weeks, three weekends ago now, or 2 weekends.
Yeah.
I don't know. But big opportunity for him and a fight that they did speak about in the past about having that's going to be having now. What are you thinking about that one?
Yeah, no, I think that their Terrence and Roz's paths have been destined to cross at some point. If they were both still fighting locally, this is another. This stylistically is going to be a challenge for both guys. Terrence is an incredibly gifted wrestler with maybe some of the best wrestling, pure wrestling that we see in our heavier MMA fighters here in New England. And Roz, I mean, he's shown better abilities on the ground. In his first couple fights as a pro, he was really having trouble on the ground, and I don't know if it was getting his length to work in his advantage on the ground. But he had some trouble, but he showed against Brad Lee that he could finish a fight on the ground at NEF. So I know Roz is going to want to stay standing probably in this fight. That's what his traditional martial arts lead to, is his stand up. And we've seen him before knock people out with that stand up.
Yeah.
We saw him fight Eric down at CES and knock Eric out with an overhand elbow that would have knocked probably any man out that night. So it's definitely it's a good fight. It's going to be a tough one to pick because I like both guys, and I stay true to my to my walking out line in New England. But it's an exciting fight, and it's a great fight for a local, two local guys at heavier weights that we don't have a lot of guys at heavier weights, and for both of them to step up and fight each other to make the fight for this card. A lot of respect to both of those guys for that. So.
Awesome. So 3 dudes from Maine coming in fighting for 3 belts. That's going to be a first, and something that really needs to be spoken about and talked about. I mean, the fights are right down the road, but give these kids and these men some props and stuff, dudes. They're coming in all the way from Maine fighting for 3 belts for a promotion they've never fought for. So Maine is going to be on fire at this big event. And so a couple more fights I'm interested in is the Kenny Champion fight. I just spit my seed out. Sorry, folks. I'll edit that out in the final version. Kenny Champion making his second pro fight. His first fight was at PFC 29, I do believe, where he blew.
Yeah,
he blew. I do believe it was there. If it wasn't, it is now. He blew the roof off that place. His live video got over 11,000 views for his first fight. It was a 38-second TKO win. As we know, he's held a couple of belts. He held a Cage Titans amateur belt. Held, I think it's the Ammo. Won the Ammo amateur belt, featherweight. Now he's coming in here making his second trip to the cage as a pro. Do you know? I mean, you haven't been at Premier FC before. I've seen Kenny fight, I think, 3 times live. I seen him fight Miguel Cuevas in a fight there where he clipped Miguel for a second there. Miguel was able to get in the finish with a submission, as we all know what Miguel is doing since that fight. So you can't judge Kenny on that fight only as a warrior because he went in there and had a good showing against Miguel.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see him again on his second fight after, coming off that win and having his whole, his whole city he's representing and taking into that place with him.
Yeah, no, I believe I saw Kenny fight one time at Cage Titans. Maybe it was the Aaron Hughes fight, I believe. And Kenny and Aaron went to war, if I remember correctly. Kenny's looks every bit the part of a champion. He's got that nice, solid frame that really works well at 145, 155, whatever he really wants to fight at. He's very athletic, and he's shown that. He's taking on Raymond Yanez.
Yes.
We know him pretty well here in New England. He's tested some of our biggest prospects, and Champion wants to put his name down as one of the bigger prospects, and that's kind of the stepping stone around here. You take out one of these veteran guys, that's a good place to start if you want to launch yourself. I love seeing I love seeing a guy like Ray come in here. Ray's a good dude. I've met him a few times at CES. We've seen him fight for Cage Titans.
Yeah.
Always comes in here, a little hype, and just comes to work. And we got to respect those guys around here because they've done a lot for our sport.
Yeah,
And,
he's fought everybody.
Everyone.
He's fought King Roy. He's fought everyone up and down, prospects. Only the best.
Yeah.
So, props to him to coming in. It's no easy fight for Kenny. You don't know what's going to happen in there. Anything can happen in there.
Yeah. Ray's got decent training all around. He's trained with some tough guys, but it's one of those things when some of these guys come from out of state into New England and they start facing some of these prospects and they say, Jesus, can I get a win against any of these guys?
Yeah.
And they keep coming back for more, and that's when people realize that, hey, New England's got something going on. We got some gyms here that are putting out some fighters that need to be talked about. So.
Awesome. All right, one or two, a couple more fights. We got a guy that I haven't heard his name in a little while, but I think he's coming off a win for Cage Titans, I think it might have. Ron Marshall is on this card.
Ron Marshall against Larry Perna.
Yes, and I think they have a lot of history or some words going back and forth on social media at one time. And I don't know, I did interview Ron after his last fight, which was that Cage Titans, Travis? Do you know?
I believe his last fight was against Jesse McElliott at Cage Titans.
So,
unless he's fought since.
So I interviewed him after, and he mentioned a name, and I think it was Larry. I could be wrong, but I'm hyping the fight if it's not. Yeah, he called Larry out.
I know that Karen has been trying to find an opponent for Larry for a while.
Oh, maybe not them.
To match up. So Ron's another one of those guys that fights the big dogs. Like he fought Fabio Charant twice, and he actually has lost to Perna at one point as an amateur. And obviously his fights with Fabio, his fights with Jesse, he's just another one of those guys that comes to the cage just to test themselves. It's really not about the wins and losses to Ron. It's about testing himself. You got to respect these kind of guys because, like I said earlier in the show, there's plenty of people that are out there just picking their fights, and Ron's basically out there picking the toughest fights he can find. So this should be a good one. I don't know much about Larry. I know plenty about Ron, and I think they're going to show us something.
Excellent. Well, one more fight. Another. I mean, they were all friends of ours. We talked about this as far as like relationships with these fighters that we talk messenger with. We're at the fights. I like to stay after. Sometimes I hang out with these fights and we, have a beer together and talk fights and potential matchups down the road for these guys who they're looking for. So, but Nick Alley is coming back after, I think, a year off, mending. He had a couple of little injuries here. He's coming back. Yeah. He's fighting at 180, fighting against a dude that hasn't had a fight in a while, but basically fought everybody in the New England area, every top guy there, making his way back. Intriguing fight. Nick, I think, is 3-2 right now, or maybe 4-2, 3-2. I'm not sure.
I think he's one stitch over 500.
Yeah, so
But
so he's making his way back at a heavier weight, and as we know, Nick likes to eat donuts and stuff like that. So I think this is going to be a fight. I've never seen Nick fight at 180 as far as in the cage. He might have fought one other time before my time, but it's interesting to see him go in there heavy-handed, 10 pounds heavier than and very healthy.
yeah, absolutely. And if Nick's probably one of those guys that I've been friends with for longer than most in New England. I trained off and on for a little while at Team Link and Hooksett when I was living in Dover, New Hampshire. So I've known Nick for a while, and Nick's always one of those guys that is fun to watch hit pads. He's slick on the ground, and he's a fun guy to have around. So Nick's always been one of those guys I've watched. I've watched his career grow from an amateur to where he's at now, to fighting for CES. Oh, there you go. You got records.
Yeah, where we? Yeah, there he is. What is it?
He's fought a couple times since.
What is it? I think
He's
I got
5-3.
What?
He's 5-3.
Wow!
5-3. Yeah. No, he's one of those guys that's always had all the talent in the world. He's got a great coach behind him, and there in Hooksett. Nick really is just looking to put everything together. He's always had striking. He's got great jits coaches. He's one of those guys that I've always been pulling for. Nick's my homeboy. I'm sorry, I clearly didn't do enough research beforehand. No, Nick's a good guy. You and I have been pretty friendly with him for the past few years. He's always happy to have us around. We're always happy to have him around. So it's good to see him get back in the cage. I hope he finishes this guy quick. Honestly, I hope he shines at Premier. It couldn't happen to a better person if he goes out there and performs well. So.
Last fighter I want to talk about, and it's not a New England guy. I just saw his name here. I forgot about him. I did him a couple of times. I've seen him fight 3 or 4 times. Josh Ricky. And fighting for the 125-pound weight, correct?
Yes. According to Tapology, again, fighting Johnny Ballou for the flyweight title. Now, yeah, we've seen Josh fight a bunch of times at CES, and always a tough dude, good wrestling base, fought guys in New England. Opponent I believe has fought at Premier before, but I'm excited to see Josh out here fighting for another promotion, having fought for, I believe he fought for Cage Titans as an amateur, but predominantly for CES out here since he's turned pro. So this is kind of a cool deal for him. He's come out here a few times, and now has a chance to go home back to New York with a belt around his waist, which is cool to see.
Excellent. Well, Travis, listen, we've gone an hour, a little under an hour, which is perfect, and I think we covered pretty much. Before we recap it with just what we talked about while we started, and give props and shout outs. As far as coming this weekend, when you when are you heading out Saturday? How long of a drive is it for you to get to PFC 30? And
I think it's close to 3 hours, maybe under in the 2 to 3 hour range. But again, Lars will be picking me up sometime in the early afternoon hours to head there, and we should be out to Springfield no later than I would say 4:30, 5 o'clock at the latest.
Yeah, we'll be meeting you there. I'll be going with my girlfriend. Shout out to Zach Richard. I did get a ticket off him, and she will be sitting with the Maniacs, very protected in a little shell of Maine, which is funny. Thank God Maine's not fighting any Springfield people, or are they? No, they're not.
No.
No, good. She'll be protected. I'm only kidding, people. So, last thing, Travis, we made big announcement about as far as Lars being on board, and I forgot to say, Lars is not just going to be limited behind the computer. He has aspirations to get out there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not anymore. Now that this whole thing came
Yeah.
out, he stepped away from the judging section. He's probably going to be more likely to take a bigger role. You've seen some of the emails he's written. The guy can write
Yeah.
very well, and it could be a huge asset for us. I know I breathed a little sigh of relief when I heard this morning that it was all out, and that he had stepped away from the judging game, because I know that Lars can contribute on that level for us. And honestly, it took a little bit of weight off my shoulders having to write all the original articles on the site. Lars can now come in and offer his expertise here and there, and take a little bit of the load off us, and just all work in harmony.
Awesome. And also, as far as the podcast, this is something evolving too. Travis, we can do this all the time leading up to a card. We can come on here.
Absolutely.
It's just not my show. It's everyone's show at this point, as far as you, Lars, and myself. We can work it away. We're gonna make this podcast perfected that we can have callers call in live on the fly. If there's a debate going on, we can have fighter against, not against fighter, but, we're going to be, listen, the way I play around with things and Lars's knowledge and teaching me or setting it up for me, people will be flashing in and out of here. We'll be getting matchups on the Room podcast for, future cards. So I see it happen, Travis. So, Travis, last thing, I'm going to let you lead us out of this podcast and shout outs and how they get in touch with you. And last thing, tell us how we get in touch with the website to potential sponsor or promotion to get on board.
Yeah, so I want to touch on that first, just so I remember, because the emails. So it's going to be Lars receiving emails for the sponsorships, and that will be info at newenglandmma.org or Lars at newenglandmma.org. I believe will be attached to that eventually. So those are our emails. I want to personally, before I get off here, I want to thank my sponsor, Day One. Went and saw him yesterday. Got the new hair going.
Woo!
Buddy Mike, he runs Roland's Old School Barbershop here in Kittery. Best cut around, best one chair barbershop in Southern Maine at the very least. So I want to thank him for that, always being on board with me and keep my hair in line. I don't know. I just really want to stress the fact that this website is going to be something that we want to be part of, New England MMA lore, if you will. We want to help bring up all these guys, and we're really putting a lot out there, doing a lot of stuff that we feel like is going to be the best for everyone involved. So I'm happy to be on board with these two guys. Steve, you do an excellent job at everything you do. Lars, you really brought us all together. A debt of gratitude to both of you guys for considering me as part of this venture with you. I look to continue to do bigger and better things, and we're here for the long haul. So we're here to put our stamp on it, and we look forward to talking to each and every one of you about this. And as soon as we can roll out this website and give you more information, we'll be doing so. But I think everyone's going to love it. Everyone's going to be on board. Everyone's going to really prosper from what we're about to accomplish. So
Awesome.
I appreciate you having me on. Obviously, this is going to be something that happens a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we're in this, guys. Represent Team New England MMA, Team New England MMA, newenglandmma.org, as it will be to everyone. This is our gift to you. Treat it as it is your own.
Awesome. With that said, Travis Lizotte, full contact writer, Steve Domenico, Ambassador Fighters, and who else?
Lars Borson, the guy that brought us all together, former MMA judge, couldn't have done it without him. He left a lot to make this happen.
Lars is large. That's gonna have to be a shirt. All right, Travis, we're out. We'll hang up and I'll talk to you for a minute on Messenger when I get you all out of here. So, thanks, Travis, man. I'll see you Saturday at Premiere FC 30. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out everywhere. The podcast will be on YouTube by tomorrow morning, so you can check that link out. I'll be sharing it. Last thing, Travis will be doing play-by-play, only it'll be linked to Domenico, ambassadorthefighters.com.
Ambassador Fighters, yeah.
So we'll make a post about that. That will have live play-by-play going in there because now Travis is an administrator of that page, and that page is not going to be, it'll be linked into the other page somehow, but that ain't going to be the focus. The focus is NewEnglandMMA.org, and that is it. So that's it. Travis, thank you so much, man. Great knowledge tonight, and man, happy to be aboard and partnered up with you, bro.
Absolutely.
Later!